Good morning, everyone. We'll call the commission meeting to order. First two items under consent are the minutes from the May 18th meeting and the treasurer's report. Julie from Abdo is here, so if you have any questions regarding the treasurer's report. If there are no questions, adjustments, or anything, I would ask for one motion to approve both items.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Motion's been made. Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Action items, introduction of new commission member. Shannon.
Yes, we have a commission member, Sophia Guinness from Golden Valley, who is joining us for her first Cable Commission meeting. So welcome. Thank you for being here. She has experience on the Golden Valley Planning Commission, City Council, and she's the Director of Community Affairs for Metro Transit. So thank you for being here.
Welcome. Presentation of, presentation of the media audit report. The representative from Bergen KDV is here with us. You have the floor.
All right, well, thank you for having me here this morning. Here to report the audit for the year ended December 31st, 2022. Did have a PowerPoint as well to provide, so hopefully that made it, there we go. And so the first slide that we have for you here this morning is just to highlight the independent auditor's report included in the financial statements. And just wanted to remind everyone what our role is. As the auditor, our job is to provide an opinion on the financial statements as to whether they're fairly stated in all material respects. And it's management's role to ensure that they're maintaining internal controls to ensure that fair presentation. Happy to report that we are giving a clean, unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's the best that we can give as your auditor. When it comes to that understanding of internal controls for the entity, we had one finding to report in our communications letter, and that's a lack of segregation of accounting duties, which means that there's certain overlap in certain accounting functions that do not have complete segregation. However, there are some other compensating controls in place that help to monitor that condition. So something that the commission just needs to continue to be aware of. The other component of the audit is our report on Minnesota legal compliance. We're required to look at certain state statutes that are listed in the Office of the State Auditor's Legal Compliance Guide, and we had no findings to report here for this year. Our communications letter also includes a financial analysis as well as the other required communication. So going on to the next slide, did have some charts and graphs to review with everyone here this morning. And the first is taking a look at the Commission's governmental fund. And this fund is the fund that establishes and collects the access fees, the franchise fees, and provides the resources and the reserves that are available to transfer over to the CCX Media Fund. And here in 2022, revenues were budgeted at about $4.9 million. Expenditures were budgeted at $629,000, anticipating a surplus of about $4.2 million, and planning for a transfers out to the CCX Media Fund of about $4.6 million, which would decrease fund balance in that fund by about $344,000. Revenues came in at $4.3 million. That's about $548,000 less than anticipated. And the major factor there was a change in fair market value of investments. So investments are invested at a certain rate, and with the increasing rates that we're seeing here, the value of those investments went down. So there was a paper loss that had to be acknowledged in the financial statements for this year, and did drive a significant portion of that variance. There was also franchise fees and access fees that were under budget by about $112 million due to less subscriptions than anticipated. That ultimately resulted in a surplus of about $3.7 million, and after transfers out to CCX Media of about $4.2 million, fund balance decreased by $479,000 for the year. The next chart shows the CCX Media Fund operation. So as we saw, the revenue streams are recorded in the Commission's governmental fund. However, the related expenditures for providing this service are recorded here in the CCX Media Fund. And this is an enterprise fund, so it does incorporate all the full accrual elements of a financial statement. And the expenditures for this year were budgeted at $4.6 million and anticipating a matching transfer in from the governmental fund. And actual expenditures came in at about $4.2 million, so $409,000 less than anticipated. There was some restructuring and changes in employees that's contributed to that variance there of about $303,000. There was also less equipment replacement than anticipated, also contributing to that variance. That ultimately led to a deficit of about $4 million with the anticipated transfer in from the governmental fund. And that came in at $4.2 million, which resulted in a surplus of $128,000 for the year. That moved the net position in this fund from a negative $1.8 million to about a negative $1.7 million. And just to give some background on that equity position in this fund, again, this is full accrual. It includes the net pension liability that the commission doesn't have to write a check for. And if we were to factor those balances out, this fund would be at about a break-even level at the end of the year when it comes to total net position. The next chart shows some history of both funds combined, just to give an overall look of revenues here over the last 5 years. And again, here in 2022, it is at a low point in the 5 years, presented at about $4.4 million overall. The next chart shows expenditures over that same 5-year time frame. There was a little bit of an increase in actual expenditures overall, going from $4.4 million to $4.8 million, and overall there was a deficit operations with the funds combined of about $351,000. The next chart shows the proportion of revenues compared to each of the revenue streams here, and could not figure out how to put a negative in the pie chart. I don't know if that's possible, but again, the investment income was negative this year, and so we did see some offsetting increases in those other categories, 85% for the franchise fees and about 19% for access fees compared to total revenues for the year. The next chart shows the franchise fee, the access fee, and the percentage to total revenues, and we are seeing an increase in that franchise fee percentage. That's at a high point in the 5 years presented. 5 years presented at 82% of overall revenues. Access fees representing 18%. That's the lowest in the 5 years presented. And again, overall, those are decreasing at a low point here in 2022. And then one last chart here just to provide an overview of revenue sources here over the last 5 years. And again, seeing that trend in that downward direction, and again, investment income generating that loss due to the change in fair market value of investments. That's a high-level overview of the financial results in our independent auditor's report. Next, I'd like to open up for any questions.
Questions regarding the audit? Bill?
So these paper losses, we've never actually realized a loss on any of our investments. Is that true?
That's correct.
And do you have a number, or is that our investment advisor that would have a number that says what percentage on average our portfolio is averaging in rate of return?
Yeah, that would be that's something I don't have available today, but that would be something that they could provide. And again, that's just the change in fair market value. These are fixed income securities that you're going to collect the stated interest rate over a period of time.
And then on page 1 here, there's a typo. I moved out of Crystal in 1979.
All right.
And Riley Grahams did not move to Robbinsdale, I don't think. So I didn't look at the rest of these.
We definitely can correct that clerical
Okay,
error there.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions? Not, I'll ask for a motion to accept the audit report.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Approval of 3 members to the executive committee. Shannon.
Yes, we have 3 vacancies on the executive committee. One is due to the fact for the resignation of Kimberly Sandberg this past May, so that created 1 vacancy. And then the other 2 are the results of an expansion to the executive committee that were passed as part of the recent bylaws. Revised bylaws rather. So we had 3 vacancies. We sent out an application and we got 3 applicants. Dr. Mark Schultz of Osseo, Daryl Sanis of Brooklyn Center, and Judy Hansen from Maple Grove. These are all people with commission experience and also experience in our local cities. And so I would recommend these 3 for the executive committee.
Motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Welcome to another meeting in your life.
Starting right after this one.
Right, yep. Okay. Approval to close two unused accounts. Shannon?
Yes, we have 2 bank accounts that are currently not being used. This came about by part of the process evaluation that we went through this spring with Abdo Financial Solutions. One is a Wells Fargo account that was basically used as a holding place for payroll. We would transfer money over and then money would go right out. And then the other was used in a similar fashion at Wings Federal Credit Union, only we would have to physically take a check to that bank in order to utilize that. And so we would like to close these 2 accounts to streamline our financial activities and use the accounts that we have.
Questions for Shannon? If not, motion to approve closing the 2 accounts.
So moved.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried. Referral of the budget. Shannon?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commission members, this year's budget memo looks a little bit different than it has in previous years, but we did try to include relevant information that you received in previous years with just a few modifications. As was mentioned in the budget memo with the implementation of Sage Intact financial software, the reporting needs of the organization were reviewed, and we hope that we broke down information in a more useful way, so it's just easier to understand. Beginning with the budget outlook, we look at the main source of revenue for the Cable Commission. This is a chart that you've seen before. Our main revenue source is franchise fees and PEG fees, and these revenues are driven by the number of cable subscribers with Comcast. And as you can see from the graph, the number of cable subscribers has been decreasing. It's been going down in the last several years. Again, this directly impacts our franchise fees, which are 5% of the cable company's gross revenue from cable video service. We are seeing this decrease an average of 3.5% per year from 2013 to 2017, and we estimate a 4.7% decrease in 2023. Access or PEG fees are also directly impacted. Access fees are $1.36 per cable subscriber per month. There was a peak in revenue in 2015 and a consistent decline since that time. So with these reductions in revenue expected, we've tried to trim and cut where we can. We've no capital improvements in building or grounds items in the budget for the Cable Commission for this next year. Page 3 of the memo, or page 39 in the entire packet, is a summary of estimated revenues and expenses projected out to 2028 for the combined commission and CCX Media. The capital improvement and reserve fund line is the total cash and investments at the end of each year. Notice that in 2028, cash is projected to decrease approximately $4.1 million from that balance at the end of 2022. This is the result of consistent decreases in revenue each year and an increase in expenses of 3% each year. That's if we maintain services at the current level. The final page is a detailed budget. The largest change to the budget is video streaming of city meetings. That expenditure was moved to the CCX Media budget. And secondly, if you look at the transfers outlined at the budget, if you're not familiar with it, it's approximately $3.7 million. That is the line that funds CCX Media. Just for clarity. I will add that building costs are included in this budget, and we've been reviewing our contracts with service vendors and requesting competitive bids to make sure we are receiving the best prices possible on services. We also have a building-wide energy audit scheduled for September 25th that we hope can help us make decisions to save and conserve electricity use. We're also working on scheduling an audit for guidance with natural gas use. As you know, in working with city staff, the budget process is complicated and nuanced, and we really tapped into the resources of staff. We invited everyone to the table as far as department leads to be a part of this process, and Julie McMackins from Abdo held her hand through it all. So our hope is that the budget can be referred to the executive committee for a closer look, but that is the commission budget. Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Shannon? If not, ask for a motion to refer this to the executive committee.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. Digital Inclusion Survey Report.
Yes, and I would like to ask Dave Kaiser, our Community and Government Affairs Liaison, to the microphone to talk about our efforts. We introduced this at the May meeting, and the survey's wrapped up over the summer, and it's already been passed on to the Office of Broadband Development, which I'm sure Mr. Mike Bradley will take that from there. But to talk about our efforts, Mr. Kaiser.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity, and the memo is in your packet. And as you see, 493 survey responses were received, so we were very happy with that. There was a survey in English, also a survey in Spanish. Part of this as well, we went out and did some informal focus groups, and I just wanted to give a couple notes from that. We met with senior citizens. Mike is not on for you in the room, all right? You can all hear me, but not the viewers at home, so this might help out. So again, 493 surveys, a few anecdotes from some of the focus groups. We did a focus group with senior citizens at the Crystal Community Center, so very interesting to see that end of the spectrum and what their thoughts were. Number one thought was need for assistance in dealing with broadband and the internet from younger ones in their family. So many conversations of, well, I had to have my granddaughter come over and tell me how to do this or that or get me connected to this. The other is fear of scams and fear of loss of personal information. So that was something that the seniors were telling us that was a concern related to broadband and the internet. The other group, other end of the spectrum, was some students at North Hennepin Community College. So interesting group to meet with. It was a diverse group of ages there as well. Some of their main comments, the cost of being connected to reliable service. That was one of their big questions, that it was just expensive. And that was driving a lot of them to say, we have to go to other places to get on Wi-Fi. So some interesting stories of going and sitting in the car outside the coffee shop or going to the library or other locations just to get internet access. And what they tell us is a lot of the work that they're doing as students now has to be turned in a digital format or online. So there's no more, here teacher, here's my paper. It's send it in online, and if you can't, you're having a problem. So just a few of the anecdotes from the survey, and I know Mike is going to mention it a little bit more. It's something that we're staying in touch with Mike on for more information, and this group is sending information throughout the state. So we're seeing some of that feedback, which again, as it comes available, we'll pass that along to you. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Dave? You got off lucky. Legal or legislation update, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see all of you, bright and early on a Thursday. My legal report is in your packet. A couple of highlights. Number one is the FCC now has 5 commissioners, which it hasn't had throughout the entire Biden administration. So that is, I think that's good news, that the commission will actually be able to tackle some more difficult issues. There's some issues we think that relate back to the litigation that we were involved in with the 621 order that can now be rectified with this FCC. So we're looking forward to working with the FCC moving forward now with their 5 commissioners. Secondly, we submitted comments to the FCC on your behalf and many other local governments' behalf in Minnesota and other places as well across the United States on the FCC's all-in cable franchising notice of proposed rulemaking. So that rulemaking procedure was about whether or not the FCC should issue a rule that requires cable operators to give subscribers or prospective subscribers an all-in price, meaning no junk fees attached to their, or it's actually all included in their price. So if the price is $50, it's not $50 plus a broadcast fee and a local sports fee and all these other, what we call junk fees, or others call junk fees actually. We were more diplomatic in our terminology of the fees, at least on paper. And anyway, we submitted comments and reply comments on your behalf on that matter. Lastly is the digital opportunity plan that was released by the Office of Broadband Development. That was released about 3 weeks ago maybe now. And that is directly related to what Dave Kaiser was briefing you about as far as what Northwest did in that process. So we provided information to the Office of Broadband Development. The Office of Broadband Development took our information and information from across the state and put together this proposed draft digital opportunity plan. And we now have a chance to comment on that plan, and we intend to do that on behalf of the commission and a number of other cable commissions and cities in Minnesota. It's a really good opportunity, I think, to piggyback on the comments that you made to the FCC on the digital discrimination docket. And that is saying the good story that you have to tell as local franchising authorities. When you have control of your right-of-way and you have control of the providers operating in your right-of-way fully, you have the ability to tell companies that are occupying your public spaces that they need to provide services across your entire footprint. They need to provide quality of service across to everybody, not just pockets. And when you look at local franchising versus just broad statewide grant authority, which is the difference between cable communications and phone companies, the difference is very, very stark. So cable companies provide services, as you all know from your work here. They provide services across your entire footprint, and they're the same services. So if you're on one end of if you're on the far north side of the cable commission area, your subscribers are getting the same quality of service that folks on the southern part of the commission area are receiving. That's not true with traditional telephone companies, and that's not even true within your own cities. And we saw that when we franchised a traditional phone company for cable. It was the first time ever in their 100+ year existence in our cities. It was the first time ever that they were required to build out in an equitable way across all of your communities. And when we looked at, because we had quarterly meetings then after we granted franchises, when we looked at what was going on, the quality of broadband or internet service was frankly unbelievable, because you could have high-speed internet, and then I could be right next door to you and I'd have dial-up speed internet. I mean, it was really that stark. So anyway, it's a long way of me saying this is an opportunity to let the Office of Broadband Development know that they should be looking at their municipal partners to making sure that if they're serious about wanting to eliminate digital discrimination, and they're serious about making sure that all residents are served the same quality of service, they need to be working with their municipal partners to make sure that local franchising is being recommended and then later adopted by the state legislature. So anyway, we'll be putting forward some comments about that in the near future. And that's enough for today. Happy to answer any questions.
Bill?
So if we want to tell that story that you just told to our congressional representatives, is there a way that we can do that in writing through something you provide to us?
Yes, and we have. We have provided that in comments to the FCC. We have not shared that, I don't think, with our congressional delegation yet. But I think right now, Bill, I think it's probably best that we do it at the state level right now. So I think that's where our focus should be, starting with the Office of Broadband Development.
So it might mean more if it's coming from the people that our state representatives know better than you, even though you've got the brains and the comments. is there something you can give us that we can forward to our representatives and say, this is what we believe?
Yes.
I mean,
For sure.
maybe you could make it if you don't have it. You know, they would probably like to read something that's 2 pages rather than some lawyerly type of thing that's more meaningful to the FCC.
I'm capable of writing things that people can understand.
Excellent,
And short.
excellent.
All great points, though. Thank you.
Other questions for Mike? If not, thanks, Mike. Anything else come before the commission? If not, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, we're going to just move right on into the CCX Media Board of Directors here, and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. 7:56 a.m. Roll call has already been accomplished here. Second item on the agenda is the consent items. Number 1 is approval of the minutes from the May 18th, 2023 meeting. You can find that on page 3 if you're having difficulty finding that. And approval of the treasurer's report on page 5. Looking for a motion to approve both of those consent agenda items.
So moved. Second.
Awesome. Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next area under action items, resolution accepting donations from CCX Media.
Yes,
Janet.
Mr. Chair and Board, we are fortunate. We are a nonprofit, and we have the ability to accept donations, and we received 2 over the summer, so we would like to recognize those. One is a Medtronic Foundation volunteer grant for $200, thanks to one of our favorite Medtronic retirees, Mr. Sanis, for sending us sending that our way. Thank you. And then another one from Mary LaHaye, which is a donation to Create of $100. So we have a resolution on the table to accept both of those donations.
So moved. Second.
So motion's been moved and seconded. Since this is a resolution, do we have to do a roll call vote, or just a regular is fine? Okay. All right, so having motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Awesome, thank you. Motion passes. Number 2, referral of CCX Media budget to CCX Media Executive Board.
Yes, thank you, board members. I would like to present the CCX Media budget, also prepared by staff with the help of Julie from Abdo. It looks a little bit different than it has in years past, and it's my hope that this new format will give us a more clear picture of the expenses associated with different departments and different functions that we have. Beginning with the budget outlook on page 34, CCX Media's main source of revenue is transfers from the Cable Commission. Funds are transferred as needed to make payments, and additional sources of revenue include advertising for hire projects and Google ad revenue. The major highlights in our expenses include a 3% increase in salaries and transitioning city council streaming services from Granicus to Cablecast. The Cablecast system runs our cable channels, it streams channels live, and it manages all of our video on demand, and it will soon do closed captioning for us as well. We believe it's a superior product, and it's also budget friendly, so it makes sense to move that to streaming our online city council meetings as well. You will see that line item, it's not just one line item, it's divided between departments that use it, so it's divided between 6 departments in the CCX Media budget. So our main expenses are salary and technology, and moving forward, I will tell you that we've already been looking at expenses to find areas that we can save or eliminate costs, plus of course looking for other revenue opportunities. For technology, we know we need to explore other less costly options that do not require expensive service contracts. Staff members have been key in this discussion and preparation of the budget and being creative and figuring out a way to make it work. So a special thank you to the folks in the control room for making that happen, and to Julie as well. It's my hope that the CCX Media budget can be referred to the CCX Media Executive Committee.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Shannon? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to refer the CCX Media budget to the CCX Media Board Executive Committee.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion passes. Approval of addition to CCX Media Create rules.
Yes, Mr. Chair, since we have a podcast studio and it's being used more frequently, we felt a need to include podcasting as part of our CCX rules and procedures packet. And so I would like to call on Mr. Javier Cedillo, our Create Coordinator, to talk about those changes. Javi?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to ask for your support on approval of changes to the CCX Create rules for the podcast studio. A copy of these proposed rules are available in your packet. As many of you will recall, back in September 2022, we established a podcast studio for use by our CCX Create members and city staff. Due to increased demand, it has become necessary for us to establish additional rules governing the use of the podcast studio. It's essential to have a clear and concise set of rules in place to ensure that all podcast producers under CCX Media umbrella are high quality and meet our standards. Adopting these proposed rules will provide a number of benefits, including increased consistency and quality of podcasts produced under the CCX Media umbrella, a more professional and polished image for CCX Media, a better experience for listeners, establish a city staff podcast membership. If you have any questions about these proposed rules, I will be happy to discuss them with you. I'm requesting that the board vote to approve the additional rules for the podcast studio. And thank you for your time.
Great. Is there any questions? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the addition to CCX Create rules.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, motion passes. Time for my favorite part of the meeting, informational items, staff reports.
Yes, thank you. Since we had a little longer meeting on tap today, or the potential of that, I asked department leads to talk briefly about one thing that they're proud of in their department for this last time. And Javi, do you want to come back out and say something? I told him I wouldn't necessarily put him on the spot, but I am.
But you're putting them on the spot.
But I'm putting him on the spot because we didn't have podcast questions.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, can you tell us one thing that you're proud of from this past time for your staff report?
Yeah, I'm very, looking at this, I mean, there's a lot of things happening there. So I'm very excited about the closet being redone. It's an open concept, so we walk in, everything's kind of laid out perfectly, like, it's a dream. And also the podcast utilization as well. Lots of different voices, a lot of people speaking directly to the community, which is really exciting. And yeah, it's just.
Thanks, Javi.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bork with the news department, I think you're up next.
Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Corey Bork, news director here at CCX Media. So I know most of your faces, but if you haven't met me before, hello, nice to meet you all. So for those who don't know me, I'm a youth baseball coach. So I love to look at numbers. So I figured I wanted to know what types of stories we cover most frequently. So I dug into the numbers, picked a random month, and it came out, we do about a quarter public safety. So what that means is anything, could be crime related, could be anything affecting a police department, fire department, could be a building addition to a fire department. So that kind of thing. Education is about 18%, close to 20%. So that could be anything school related, along that realm. Business development stories, we do a lot of those. That's 22%, almost a quarter. So that could be a business profile piece, could be a redevelopment story. We have a lot of those that we cover and that garner interest. And then the other bucket, that's 25, that could be like a personal profile piece, could be a story on your neighbor who has some interesting hobby, that kind of thing. And then I thought, that's becoming an emerging trend about weather, climate, and even I put in that bucket like renewable energy stories. And so it'll be interesting to see over the years if that tends to jump up a little bit. So that's right now about 7%. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then finally, I'll end on, we got some awards, or nominated for some awards, so I always like to end on some good news. And we were nominated for some regional Emmy Awards, and they include Shannon Slatten-Schwartz, I think I know who that is, along with Adam Jukala, he's a photographer on her staff, Delane Cleveland, a reporter on her staff, and Adam were also nominated for a story that they did. And then Shannon was nominated for writing, and she did such a good job in her news department. She was too good, so we decided to get her out of the news department. So,
Lower the bar.
congrats, Shannon. I hope you win.
Thank
Probably
you.
going up against Boyd Hoopert. in
I know.
this market. Good luck. So, and then Ben Kroll, one of a photographer of ours, also took first place in a competition. So, and keep in mind, we're going up against large market stations. We're a small station, but we compete in the large market. So we're going up against stations in Milwaukee, here, of course, in the Twin Cities. So it is pretty neat. And if anybody ever has questions, feel free to grab me after the meeting about news. Send me an email. I'm happy to take your story ideas, or just have any other questions about news. So
Thank you,
so
Corey.
thank you.
Mr. Jacobson with sports, you're up next.
I'm John Jacobson. Good to see you all this morning. I'll make my report brief. We started our Hall of Fame at CCX. There was a way to honor, maybe not honors in the right way, recognize former high school athletes and coaches in the northwest suburbs. So if you are on in the lobby on the other side of the building, you see all the plaques on the walls. We inducted 4 new members over Labor Day weekend. Isaac Collins, who was a Maple Grove High School graduate. Kelly Panic from Plymouth, who was an Olympic gold medalist in women's hockey. She went to Bedell St. Margaret's. Bridge Tussler from Osseo, and Molly Umland from Park Center. Their plaques are being made right now, being framed up, and they'll go up on that wall, and that'll bring our total number up to 80 athletes and coaches that we've recognized. So there's a little background on each of those athletes in your packets, and if you want to see the whole program, you can see it on our YouTube channel or on our, it's online on our website as well. That's all I have. I'm excited to be back here for my 34th fall of high school sports. And Bill, I thought of you when I was coming up here. So one of my first games was at Old Milky Field in Crystal / Robbinsdale, where the Robins played, and Armstrong Cooper. So now it's Cub Foods. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Mr. O'Connor with cities.
I had the great honor of shooting sports with John back in 1990, and I remember the first time he took me to Milky Field, and holy cow, at 4 in the afternoon trying to get from there to here was nigh unto impossible with all the stoplights that were on 100 at the time. But fortunately, we don't have that anymore. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I am here to talk about, 2025 marking a memorable occasion for the city of Osseo. 125 years old it will turn in 2025.
150.
Sorry, thank you. I appreciate that. 2025, 125. So sorry. We did that video 25 years ago.
As a township, not a city.
I should read. I shouldn't try to ad lib. Anyway, in initial planning, CCX is of course doing a video to commemorate the occasion, and an initial planning meeting was held in August, and drone footage was shot height of summer to capture the height of its beauty, and we'll be shooting interviews with people later this year. Excuse me. Early next year, we'll be combining that video with our own file footage that we've compiled over the years, as well as a wealth of historical pictures. And our own connection has already done a story to encourage residents to get involved in planning for the event. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Tamisha now with the Creative Services update.
Yeah, so since the last meeting, we've been busy wrapping up spring projects and kind of gearing up for fall. But one of the projects we completed over the time frame was with Anoka Hennepin Schools, and we're going to be playing some clips here just so you can kind of see what was all involved. I think we used about every piece of equipment we had in the building. We used our portable studio, we used a DSLR camera with prompter, we had our editing, we recorded some pieces in here, and they're gonna get to the video here in a second, I'm sure. We did the project within a 3-week time frame, and it brought in just shy of $5,000, so that was a nice project. Okay,
You're not
no
getting
video, sorry. If you want to see it, we'll play it later. But yeah, we really appreciate working with Anoka Hennepin, and they've been a great repeat customer for us, so it's been very nice. So that's my one thing. If you've got any questions now, or you can catch me later after the meeting. So.
Thank you, and all of our department leads will be around, so you're welcome to help yourself to a bagel and some coffee and chat with some of our staff members for sure. That's our staff reports, Mr. Chair.
All righty, thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before the board today? Okay, hearing none, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. A little tenuous there. I would think we're going to get out of here. But, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, the motion stands adjourned, or the meeting stands adjourned.